Working on reimagining downtown Salt Lake City, creating a downtown environment that reconnects the east and west sides of downtown Salt Lake and creates a space where families and individuals can come and gather that connects basically the Salt Palace, Abravanel Hall, Utah Museum of Contemporary Art, all the way to the Delta Center where the Utah Jazz and Utah Mammoth play, and create this amazing experience downtown.
Welcome to Motivational Monday, conversations with me, David Ibarra, and my guest today, Michael Maughan.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, the people that don't recognize Michael, you've been in the news quite a bit with a big project downtown called the Smith Entertainment District.
Yes, so we're working on reimagining downtown Salt Lake City, creating a downtown environment that reconnects the east and west sides of downtown Salt Lake and creates a space where families and individuals can come and gather that connects basically the Salt Palace, Abravanel Hall, Utah Museum of Contemporary Art, all the way to the Delta Center where the Utah Jazz and Utah Mammoth play, and create this amazing experience downtown.
Now, when you talk about experience, you come from an expertise of experience. Would you tell our listeners a little bit about what I'm alluding to, expertise, experience?
Yes, so I worked for Ryan Smith for a long time now, and we spent a decade plus together at Qualtrics. Qualtrics is the leader in experience management. When Qualtrics went public, it was XM for experience management on the NASDAQ, and it's all focused on helping organizations create incredible experiences for their products, for their customers, for their employees, and with their products and brands.
You know, I got my start as a dishwasher, working for a guy who taught me what I thought this was going to be the worst experience of my life. It couldn't mean nothing, washing dishes.
Sure.
And I met Bob Farrell that I believe connected in a different way to what you do, in a more scientific way. But Mr. Farrell always taught us one thing. It was the theme. It was the experience. People will forget what you say, what you do. They'll never forget how you made them feel. And he built 147 restaurants across this country, part of the Marriott Group, Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor Restaurant.
Yeah.
To this day, Farrell's features fabulous food, fantastic fountain fantasies for frolicking fun-filled. There's not a person that worked at Farrell's that didn't remember what our responsibility was.
Sure.
You bring that to companies in a much more sophisticated way that a lot more people could understand. Could you tell us a little bit about how that worked?
I think exactly what you just said is the most important thing that we sometimes lose sight of. And it's interesting in life, we sometimes lose sight of the most obvious or the most important thing because everything starts to crowd it out because there's so much to be done that we forget what we're actually trying to do. And when it comes down to it, people care about the experience that they have. We care about the experience we have with each other. We care about the experience we have when we're purchasing something or staying the night at a hotel or whatever that is. And when people can focus on that, Qualtrics, of course, allowed organizations to automate that, to put a lot of data behind that. But that's exactly what we've tried to bring in all that we're doing with the Utah Jazz and Utah Mammoth. One of the first things that Commissioner Silver of the NBA said to us when Ryan and Ashley Smith bought the Utah Jazz is don't leave your tech experience behind. Bring all that you learned with you, and let's focus on creating the best fan experience now in the NBA. And we're able to use so much of the data and so much of the mission and vision and technology that got us to where we are today in sports to continually iterate, to listen, and to listen in a very proactive way where you can then make changes, some iterative, some large, and that's what's been a huge piece. But I think you find this in everything you do, in every relationship you have. If you focus on the experience that someone has with you and that you have with them, it changes everything.
Well, as you know, I'm a disciple of Think and Grow Rich, written by Dr. Napoleon Hill, and one of the largest, I am the largest licensee of his work in the world. And Dr. Hill taught something early that just really resonated with me that coincides with what you've just shared with us. There's two types of compensation. And obviously, it's capital, it's existence, it's taking care of family. But the second is greater than the first. It's experiences and relationships. And that's really what you zeroed in, was that second more important compensation. If we as human beings don't experience it, don't gain it, we're not going to enter a happiness consciousness for sure. And our lives won't be enriched.
I love how you talked about experiences and relationships. It's so interesting you did that. So many of the relationships that we have become more meaningful when we have shared experiences.
Right.
And that is, I think, a way that we as humans kind of get beyond sort of the obvious. We can all go to something or do something together, but if we can experience something together, if we can have a moment, if we can create this little adventure in the course of living our lives, that changes how we connect as humans, and that's where I think the magic happens.
Well, we oftentimes tell parents, we work hard. Most folks have to work really hard, and sometimes they bring the cloud of work home with them, and so they're not present. By simply taking and dedicating 30 minutes uninterrupted, no cell phone, no text, and just being present, doing something with your children is the exact kind of experience that we're talking about in relationship memories. We're in the memory. Our lives are in the memory business, really.
Right. The old adage, we don't remember days, we remember moments.
Exactly.
True in business, true in family, true in communities, true everywhere.
Now, I've heard you talk about the entertainment district, and something that resonated with me is like the NBA or any sports league. The experience once you walk into the building begins, but it normally doesn't begin until you're inside the building. And what the Smith Entertainment District is attempting to do, correct me if I'm wrong, is to change that where it begins outside of the arena in this district that's going to feel and look like what?
First of all, let me just say, I think that the experience starts the minute you watch a game. It starts the minute you buy a ticket. The experience starts way before you ever come in. That said, the experience that we can control, usually, is the experience once you're in the building. What we want to do is exactly what you've talked about, which is in the geography, the surrounding area, is to create a reimagined downtown that allows people to have these experiences, to come together. We say so often in a world where we're incredibly divided on so many different things. Sports is one of those few things that draws people together where otherwise they might be divided. And as we create spaces, you obviously are familiar with this idea of third spaces where people that are not home or work, but other places people can gather. We want to make sure that people can come and celebrate what it means to be downtown, what it means to be a member of the community, that there's a place for people to gather. And so we'll look at a wide variety of different options down there, from housing to hospitality to food and beverage and things like that. But we want to create a gathering space where people can come and really have a great experience. A huge piece of that is that every generation has to carry the baton of city building, because there's a natural draw away from an urban core. And if cities and communities aren't careful, then the natural draw is away, and you're left with sort of this desolate downtown, because if each generation doesn't invest, it sort of pulls away. And that's what's so remarkable right now about the partnership with Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, the state of Utah as a whole, and all of these private organizations, is everybody has said, okay, we need to make sure that we invest so that we have a place and an experience for residents, not just of the city, but of the entire area, because it has this ripple effect that's huge, and that's where we get to bring everybody together. We've been able to pull people from the right wing of politics and the left wing of politics, and everyone for one moment agreed that we have to invest in the downtown and make sure that we're creating an experience for generations to come.
And it's interesting. There's two things that come to mind, and that one is one of the things that our nation is suffering from right now is a new epidemic of loneliness. people aren't getting out, like you say, going to that third venue to meet, and we're becoming less comfortable interacting personally.
And more people live alone than ever before. Mm-hmm. It's all of those things.
Right. And when I first heard about the Smith Entertainment District, the thing that came to mind to me was really the opportunity when you look at the asset of the downtown in general. When we look at the beginning of the change of Salt Lake City in 2002, when we had the Winter Olympics and large billions of dollars invested by the federal government in freeways and bridges being redone, and the light rail that many people said, why are we doing this? Nobody will ever ride it. I mean, people fight to stay where they are. But then second, we got the $3 billion investment in the downtown by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Mm-hmm. And then we look at an international airport, and then we look at the freight, the inland port, and then you talk about the one piece that still doesn't quite have a personality, didn't have a good plan to it. You've got it doesn't flow, and that is from Main Street all the way to City Creek. Didn't seem organized, and you're talking about changing that.
I mean, I've compared it most frequently to my teeth when I was in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
They were all over the place, and that's a little bit like the core of the downtown now. And it's fixable. It just needs some braces, right? I hope my teeth turned out okay.
Yeah, well.
But it's that idea is that we just need to put some braces on and reconnect the east and west sides of downtown and allow people to interact the way that they want to, that they hope to, and that's what we're so excited to be working on.
So when you're referring to some teeth that aren't exactly straight, I think that what we're referring to is there is no flow as to entry points from all the different sectors, west, east, north, and south. It just is there.
Right.
And now you're going to have a flow. And what will that feel like? What's going to be inside of it? What come to mind when I read first about it was LA Live. And we looked at Los Angeles. It still has a ton of troubles. But LA Live brought people together in a safe little section that really flowed, and it seemed like I said, boy, we're going to have our LA Live.
You know, and we're lucky. We've learned a lot of lessons. LA Live is amazing in so many ways, and I think there are things they might do different if they did it today. Mm-hmm. We get to go and see all of those lessons and then apply all the good things and work on the things that they wish they would have changed or might change today. And we are able to do that with a lot of different districts that we're able to see. What is important to us, and there are two kind of major factors. I think the one word I've used more than any other when describing the downtown is activation. We want to activate the space. We want to create different places where people can come and be and like you're saying, connect with each other, connect with the environment, and do something, right? We live in a world where malls, the old traditional mall, they don't generally work that well anymore, right? People shop online, they do other things. And so instead of just saying, here are a bunch of retail stores, we hope you go shop at them, we want to take a very activated approach. How do we make sure that people are there, that there are bodies, that there are people always engaging and stuff like that? So activation is huge. Walkability is very important because I think it's so important to be able to access these places. And that's where right now the convention center, which was terrific when it was built, but serves as a bit of a wall. It crosses a wide area, three downtown city blocks, and creates a bit of a wall. So if you can reconnect the ability of people to walk through these spaces, travel through, it creates that environment where we can engage again.
How is it, even the convention center took part of a street and build a huge wall.
Right.
Is there any thought of reconnecting that street that as a welcoming almost corridor to the new district?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think economically it's feasible to reconnect the street, but what we will do is make sure that all the way from City Creek to the Delta Center, there is a pedestrian and in some sense vehicular pathway that will connect all of that. So one would be able to walk all the way from City Creek to the Delta Center. And that's, I think, what's really exciting.
Perfect. I want to jump forward or back, really, and talk about what is exactly your job role or title. I don't think I have ever seen it listed. What is your, I've seen it listed, but with the Utah Jazz, the hockey club, what is your title?
I have to admit, I am of all people the least interested in title of maybe anyone I've ever met. We just say executive at Smith Entertainment Group. That's as far as I was willing to go because I just don't care about title. I don't care what anyone else's title is, and I don't think they should care about mine. But what I get to work on, though, is all of it. I mean, I get to work on everything from, we just named the hockey team, the Utah Mammoth, so worked through all of the naming, right? Worked through purchasing both teams, worked through all the real estate that we're doing, all the government stuff that we're doing, different relationships with, community members and everyone from the churches to the governments, et cetera. So I have, I think, the most beautiful job because I get to follow Ryan and Ashley Smith and do a little bit of everything. I lead our foundation with some of that and Ashley runs kind of all that, but I get to do a lot with the foundations and the Jazz Scholars.
Would it be fair, since I want our audience to know, there's no doubt that nothing works. You don't enter that genius zone that a company can get without a specialized talent team working together in complete harmony. And when they are, you can't tell titles. But would it be fair to say that you're the go-to person to bring all the pieces together in the Smith Group? Take a moment and picture in your mind igniting your child's journey to lifelong success from an early age. With Yes, Our Kids Can, this vision becomes a reality right from preschool. Don't miss this chance to shape your child's path towards extraordinary success. Enroll in the Yes, Our Kids Can University now and witness the remarkable impact it can have on your child's growth and development. Secure your child's bright future today. Sign up now by clicking the link below.
I think we've got a lot of amazing people.
Sure.
And it takes everyone to bring it all together. You know what I mean? I'm grateful to be a part of the puzzle.
Great. Well, tell me about, from the beginning, how in the world did the Smiths decide that they were going to get into the basketball business?
Yeah, it's a great question, and they have thankfully spoken about this, and I'll just share what they've said. But, Ryan Smith grew up as a huge Utah Jazz fan. He talked about when he was a little kid, they couldn't afford to go to games, and he would sneak in. Security was maybe a little less advanced then, and he'd sneak into games now and then. Ashley grew up in Las Vegas, but also within the world of the Utah Jazz and was a fan growing up as well. Ryan plays basketball still most mornings, just big basketball fan, and looked at different opportunities. When the first kind of foray into the NBA was when Ryan and I started something called Five for the Fight. It was a cancer charity inviting everyone to give $5 for the fight against cancer. And Qualtrics decided to sponsor the Jazz jersey, the first time the NBA ever allowed jersey sponsorships. And instead of putting the name of our corporation or something else, we put the name of Five for the Fight on there, the first cause-related jersey sponsorship in the history of North American professional sports. And that's when, Qualtrics began a formal relationship with anyone in the NBA, the Jazz. And they, had hoped to buy a team if that ever happened. I think a lot of little kids dream of something like that. And, over the course of time, something happened. The opportunity arose, and there's a line in a book called Dune. I don't know if you've ever read Dune, but I love it. It's a fascinating book, and it says when you've lived with prophecies for so long, the moment of realization is a shock. So even though, he dreamt of and it'd be so cool to own a team or whatever,
Right.
when you live with this idea for so long, when the opportunity really presents itself, it's still a bit of a shock. And Ryan and Ashley got together on their kitchen table in their home, a round table like this, and they stayed up all night. And it wasn't just, you can buy the team, let's go. And they said, if this is just about basketball, it's not worth it. It's not about us. It's not about ego.
Right.
And by the end of the evening, as the morning hours ticked by, they made the decision to go forward based on one thing. If they could use the platform as a mechanism to do good in the world, then they would say yes and purchase the team. If they didn't feel like they could use the platform to really do good in the world, then it wasn't worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And they are two of the most remarkable, visionary, and just good people I've ever known. And they determined that, I think we can use this platform to do good. And that's what made them make the decision to actually go forward.
Wow. And then the hockey team, the Arizona Coyotes, which were having real trouble with a venue to play. And then when that occurred, that was quite a surprise. Was that in the works a long time, or was that just an opportunity that just came and happened over several months of chats?
You know how opportunity works. It's there are so many people who are a 20-year overnight success or whatever. Look, I mean, I don't think anyone expected it to happen that quickly, but of course we'd been having conversations with the NHL, saying that there would be interest in bringing a team here. We'd love to introduce a second, Big Four professional sport to Utah. Looked at all the different options. Hockey made a lot of sense. We asked for an expansion team. And then, as you noted, in Arizona, there were some real issues with their arena. And the NHL came to us and said, look, maybe you can help us out of a bind, and we'll allow you to move forward a little faster than an expansion team, but can you act immediately? And true to the form of the great people that work with Smith Entertainment Group, everybody just jumped in and said, okay, we'll make it work. Nothing like that has happened, where you have to pick colors before you have a name or logo. You have to, I think we had 174 days between being awarded a team and having to start actual play. Wow. That's incredible. And so the team just rallied, the community rallied. One of the most impressive things I've ever seen was the day that we invited the team, the former Arizona Coyote players, to come to Utah, and we said, we're going to fill up the Delta Center and welcome these guys to Utah.
Right.
And there was some question among people, will people show up? Can you really fill the arena? Is it going to be empty? Is it going to be awkward? Not only was the arena every seat packed, but we had thousands of people outside who couldn't get in, who were watching on the big screens outside because Utah shows up. This community is incredible, and it's been amazing to watch, and they've shown up every day since.
That had to be an incredible feeling for the players that were kind of displaced, and then all of a sudden they show up, and it's not an argument about how they're going to get a facility to play in. Everybody's there.
Right.
And they're standing right in the facility.
And I think it just shows, again, this idea of an experience. They had been playing in a small college arena filled mostly with opposing fans, and they leave that and are welcomed into this community saying, not only are we excited to have you, but we're going to be behind you every step of the way, and we're going to show up for you. And those players, I remember one of them said that day, if you keep showing up like this, we'll bleed for you on that ice, right?
Right. Well, I tell you, I had never been a hockey fan. I didn't know anything about hockey. I played football, baseball and basketball and ran track. And then I got invited to a hockey game. So I go over to the arena, and I was a little bit late and got in, and it was a beautiful seat right down up front. And, oh, my heck, I look up, I look behind me, and it is packed. There is not a seat empty. And the roar and the excitement was nothing I had experienced as a jazz ticket owner for 20 years, I believe. Wow, it was incredible. So while I don't understand the game, I'm getting better at understanding the game because I've been to 2 now, and it is fun and packed.
It's amazing. I mean, what's so fun is right now we're going through, as part of this reimagination of downtown, we also have to do a massive renovation of the arena. I was not as familiar either. A basketball court is roughly half the size of an ice rink. Mm-hmm. So while we're playing in the Delta Center for both Mammoth and Jazz games, the Mammoth games have only about 11,000 seats, and Jazz have about 18,600. And they're only 11,000 because right now we don't have full sight lines, and that's where we're renovating, kind of gutting the building in order to create this thing. That said, there are thousands of seats where you can only see one goal. And every night, those seats were filled because people just want to come and, like you're saying, feel the experience. Right. They want to be part of the energy in the building, and they're showing up because they just want to be there. And, of course, the renovation will be amazing, and then every seat will be a full view seat. But even when it's not, the community is showing up, and they're that excited.
And that's well on its way right now.
Yes.
Let me ask you, what will be the capacity for hockey when it's done and for the NBA Jazz team?
Yeah, hockey will be about 17,000.
Wow.
And Jazz will be a little more than it is now, so getting closer to 19,000.
Well, that's going to be and you're going to be able to get it done by next season?
No, so it's going to happen over 3 summers.
Oh.
So this summer, and that's what's crazy about it, the teams still have to play. They start playing in October, and the regular season goes through mid-April, and then the postseason goes through June. And so we only have the summers to go do the work. And so we have it in different phases. We anticipate it will take 3 summers to complete, but then the teams will be right back in there playing in October.
Wow, so cool. Well, before we end, we've got to talk about taxation, because that is the number one question that gets asked. And in the conversations that we have about the Smith Entertainment District, a lot of folks are really passionate about believing that they're paying for it out of their pocket. And I'm one that tries to remind people what it means and where does this money come from. And it's not coming out of a current bank account, if I'm not mistaken. It's coming out of future taxes generated. Would that be true or not?
Yeah, so the city passed a 50-cent sales tax that's in place for 30 years that will pay for many of these renovations of downtown Salt Lake City, and that's allowing this investment into the downtown core. Now, it's estimated by economists that 75 to 80% of that tax will be paid by non-Salt Lake City residents, by people who are traveling in and visiting to attend anything as it relates to this district or the city as a whole. Now, what's really fascinating, though, and what I think is really important to focus on here, again, we talked about how every generation has to carry the baton of city building. That's incredibly important. It's also so important to all of us that whether someone ever attends a symphony at a Bravenel Hall, whether they ever go to a convention at the Salt Palace, whether they ever attend a game at the Delta Center, downtown has to work for them. And what's really important is that the vision of this reimagination is so that families and individuals, residents and visitors alike, can all come and have an incredible experience downtown, whether they ever attend any of those places, whether they ever go to a symphony, right? You still need to be able to have this experience. And that's what's so important about this continued investment into the downtown and into the experiences that we'll all have. The other thing that I think is so important to note is that just between the Delta Center events, the Jazz and Mammoth games, that alone generates over $600 million of economic contribution to just Salt Lake City every single year. Now, the ripple effects beyond Salt Lake City all through the county and the region are much bigger than that. But over $600 million a year in economic impact to the city every year. So people get caught up, of course, and they should ask questions about the $900 million investment Salt Lake City is making into this area. A year and a half a year and a half, and you've already exceeded that economic contribution. And so when we look at this 30-year investment into the downtown urban core, I think it's a very, very powerful investment.
And when we talk about, when you look at about 150,000 people come drive into the city and leave it, every day at 5 o'clock, and it's estimated that about 70,000 would choose to live here if they could. And the one thing that I think that the Salt Lake City administration is doing well is building apartments to where we can get a core living in the city, and that generates sales taxes. And there's two ways you're going to run a city. It's either sales tax, the portion the city receives, or it's property tax. Now, by doing incentives to create better sales tax, if I'm a resident of Salt Lake City, I want the revenue to come from sales tax.
Yes, you do.
Not property tax. And I think that we've got a really good core to make that so. The last thing that people will say, what about the homeless issue in Salt Lake? And we do have a problem, but I'll tell you what, it's not a problem that can't be overcome. Absolutely not. And I believe that the Smith Entertainment group are participating in trying to bring a logical assistance to those people that are in this crisis.
Yeah.
Could you,
David, one thing I love about you is you're an optimist, right? And I think the world needs more optimists, because I agree with you 100% that this is a very important issue, and one that is solvable, one that we can all contribute to really meaningfully. What I love to remind people is that Smith Entertainment Group signed a 30-year lease on downtown. And I tell them 30 years ago I was in elementary school. 30 years from now I'm going to be a really old man.
Careful.
You're still way younger than I'll be in 30 years. But my point is that look at the grays. My point is this: you have no more invested or concerned resident in Salt Lake City now than Smith Entertainment Group, right? We're there. We're going to be there. And we care about making sure that it is a safe environment for everybody, and that there's a place for people. And so working very closely. This is where I have great optimism, though, is because if you just look at this investment in the downtown urban core, and I mentioned this a minute ago, you have some rather deeply right-leaning politicians and some rather deeply left-leaning politicians, and some in the middle and everywhere in between, who all came together and said this is something important that we need to do and we need to tackle together. Now, when it comes to issues of homelessness and many other important issues, that's also an area where people agree we need to do something. We need to do it in a very humane way. We need to do it in a way that honors the value of every single individual and who they are as people. We need to look at human suffering and make sure that we have a real plan for it. And we need to make sure that we invest in a way that allows the economy and visitors and residents to continue to thrive in the environment where they are there.
There is no doubt everybody is hurt if we don't address it. The person experiencing it, the neighborhoods, the children that have no place to play, the businesses, everybody. So there's a reason to do it. This is not an economic issue as much as it is a responsibility to the lives of another. And sometimes that means intervening and helping. And we've seen it be successful in San Antonio and other parts of this country, and there's no reason that we can't be the lead, so that when people come to a downtown, they can say, for heaven's sakes, what have you done? Our downtown does not look this way. And that's the Utah way. And that's what I absolutely believe will occur. It's the first time in my life that I'm seeing the governor, the speaker, the president of the Senate, and the mayor, and everybody, business, may be forced, it doesn't matter how, but we're working together. And when we're working together, something's going to change, and we're going to have a spectacular downtown. I can't wait to see it.
We're excited, and we're grateful for your leadership and the opportunity to be part of it.
Well, I couldn't help but I wanted to give you a gift for being on our program, a copy of my book, Live Ready, Beyond Think and Grow Rich, and thank you for being on our program today.
Thank you so much. So grateful.